My name is Randy Bennett, and this is my educational autobiography. I attended Saline area schools for all of K through 12. School for me was a place where I could push myself to do my very best, and at the end of the day was a place where I got to fulfill my passion for broadening my knowledge. However, for much of elementary, the first few weeks of school were always filled with anxiety. Having suffered and still suffer from separation anxiety, these first few weeks were always challenging in leaving my mom, dad, and sister and being surrounded by new people. After the anxiety of the first couple weeks, which later turned into days, I found myself incredibly excited whenever I walked into the classroom. I found comfort in my classmates and my teachers, who I always took a strong liking to. My drive to learn was present all throughout elementary, middle, and high school. I developed a self-inflicted devotion to perfection. This was evident when I came home one day in first or second grade bawling because I had failed a spelling test, which of course meant I had got one answer wrong. My mom and dad often teased me about this, saying that they knew from that moment I was going to be my own toughest critic. By the time middle school came around, I had met so many teachers that had made a huge impact on me that I was certain I wanted to do the same for someone someday. While middle school was tough for me emotionally, it was fascinating for me educationally. It was in middle school that my favorite learning experience took place. My 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Tressler, taught our curriculum around social injustices. She perfectly combined history with literature and elicited a passion for the power of literary works, even in students that despised English. High school was very similar to middle school in the fact that it was tough emotionally. My freshman year, my aunt got into a motorcycle accident and was in a coma for more than a month. She suffered immensely with traumatic brain injuries. My junior year, I lost my uncle to suicide. These events immensely impacted my education and my health. I had two extremes of either struggling to be able to find relevance in my schoolwork, to immersing myself in it to ignore reality. It was the trimester after I lost my uncle that I encountered my least favorite teacher. He was my pre-calculus teacher and thought it was amusing to make jokes about things ranging from homosexuality to suicide. Needless to say, I begged my mom and dad frequently to let me skip that class. Unfortunately, his actions clouded my vision of pre-calculus and made the class one of my least favorite learning experiences. Despite these events, I enjoyed most of my high school career. I took a lot of AP classes and a couple of teacher education classes to push myself academically, played a couple of sports to push myself physically, and enjoyed the time I got with family and friends. College, on the other hand, was a tough transition. I struggled with leaving my family behind as I left for CMU, found it challenging to have a schedule that was different every day, and couldn't always motivate myself to make it to lecture halls of 200. Despite still doing well in class, I wasn't satisfied with my efforts. After my first semester, I began to work to adapt my education to the college experience and began to find a home in Largelere. What I want to bring from my PK through 12 experience to my classroom someday is inspired by two of my all-time favorite teachers. Diana Lauchu was my Spanish 2 and Spanish 3 teacher and was so incredibly passionate about her work and her heritage. She was tough on her students, but was tough because she knew what it took to succeed at learning a language. She expected respect, but only because she gave countless amounts to her students. She was there for her class no matter what, and would always take the time out of her day if you needed it. My second favorite teacher, Jennifer Denson, took a very different approach. She was my English teacher 3 times and my capstone teacher for a whole year. She gave students room for creativity and encouraged them to take their inspirations and run with them. She was always willing to lend a listening ear and always eager to lend a helping hand. She connected the things we learned in class to what many of us would someday learn in life. Mrs. Denson also traveled to Haiti with us, where we installed water filters for those in remote areas of the country, and where she showed us all how tough she really was. These 2 teachers, along with countless others, inspired me by their never-ending passion for their career and their students. These 2 items were not separate identities to them, and even the most uninterested of students deserved their passion. Teaching, to me, is being the keeper of a fire. You must first take care to ignite a spark within the kindling. Some kindling may be too wet to start right away, but that doesn't mean that you give up on it. Once you ignite the spark, you must try your hardest to transform that spark into a raging fire. You must delicately add wood and take care to make sure it is oxygenated. You must take time to ensure that it doesn't go out. If it does, you light it again and care for it just as much as you did the first time. And even if a fire is never started, or the wood never quite dries out enough to create a flame, you never give up on that fire, because one day we're going to need that heat to keep us warm.